My entitled wife tried to embarrass me by flirting with another man and called me a mama's boy. But she regretted it instantly once I threatened to leave her on the spot. I recently took my wife on a vacation abroad because I thought it would help resolve a fight that we were having. But she decided to use the vacation as an excuse and do something unbelievable. Let me quickly tell you how ridiculous our fight was first. 1 year ago, her parents needed some money because they wanted to do a few repairs around their house. I agreed to send over a substantial amount because I wanted to help them, and even went over to help with the labor. My wife was really happy and thanked me a lot. I did it because I consider them my parents as well, and we are a family. A similar situation happened a month ago, where my mother needed some financial help. She is a single mom and has struggled her entire life, but never asked me for help before this. So I was really eager to finally give her a helping hand, and sent over the same amount that I had sent to my wife's parents. However, my wife didn't like this at all. She argued that I should have asked her before sending over money, and that my mom was most likely lying about needing help. I argued by saying that she had no reason to lie, and even if she was indeed lying, I still wanted to send her money. So my wife ended up calling me a mama's boy and said that I am ruining our marriage by making decisions without her opinion. I asked her that she didn't hesitate to send money over when her own parents asked for help, so how is this any different? After that, she has been ignoring me because she thinks I'm trying to gaslight her. I decided that it wasn't worth fighting over, and booked tickets for us to go to another country and cool our nerves down. I did this because I loved my wife, and wanted us to stop fighting. She was really delighted to go on this trip, and forgave me when I showed her the tickets. The hotel we were staying at had a pool and a spa, so she was really excited to experience it. Everything was going well, we landed safely and had a wonderful ride to the hotel. But as soon as we entered our room, my wife's tone changed completely. She proposed that while on this trip, we should act separately and not as a couple. I asked her why, and she said that she hadn't actually forgiven me, and needed to take some time off for herself without me hanging over her shoulder. But I rejected the idea because there is no way I'm leaving her alone in a country where something could easily go wrong. She was really mad that her proposal wasn't accepted, and kept ignoring me for the majority of our trip. My entire mood had been spoiled and I was considering ending it early and just going home. Little did I know, my wife was planning something sinister. After we went to the beach, we decided to spend some time at the bar. I thought that my mood would improve after having a few drinks and we could make up. But as soon as we sat down, she began talking to another guy. I literally saw her being extremely flirty with this guy, and responding to all his compliments even though I was sitting right next to her. I was about to say something when the other guy asked if she was with someone. To my absolute surprise, she replied, "No, I'm here alone and would love to keep talking with you." Before he could say something in response, one of his friends called him. He said he'll be right back and left. I grabbed my wife's arm and asked what the F she thought she was doing. And this is what she said to me: "Oh, you didn't like that? Well, that is what happens when you don't listen to me. Consider it my revenge on you, Mr. Mama's boy. Now, do you think I should spend some more time with him, or are you ready to do as I say?" I couldn't believe that she was actually thinking that cheating on me would make me listen to her. Over the last month, her arguments about me supporting my mother had really gotten on my nerves, and this was the last straw. So I ended up telling her, "Don't worry, you can do whatever you want. Because as of this moment, you and I are done. I am leaving you right here, and you can go sleep with that guy." As I tried to walk off, she hurriedly grabbed my arm and stopped me from leaving. She began saying that she was joking and that she loved him, and didn't want to leave me. She actually had the audacity to say that her flirting with another man in front of me was just a prank. But I was having none of it, and just booked a taxi to the hotel. She followed me and kept apologizing, but I contacted my lawyer right in front of her and told him to start preparing the divorce papers. The look on her face when she realized that she would no longer be able to enjoy the life I provided for her was immensely satisfying.
My narcissistic husband thought that I slept with his gay friend and demanded a paternity test. So I divorced him and left him miserable. I have been married to my husband for 5 years and we just had our second child. Our first child was a son with blonde hair and freckled skin, a splitting image of my husband. I have naturally red hair, by the way, and my husband loves my hair. But for some reason he was glad that our son wasn't a redhead. He was very proud and bragged a lot about how his genes were superior than mine, and that's why our son looked so much like him. In fact, the only time he stopped talking about it was when I got pregnant again. Throughout the 9 months, he kept telling everyone that our second child was also going to be a blonde and there was no way to prevent this. I thought this was weird but funny, and went along with him by saying, "Yeah, I also think the baby will have blonde hair." He was really excited because this time we were having a daughter instead of a son. However, his tone completely changed once I gave birth. Our daughter was the opposite of our son, and a complete splitting image of me. She had beautiful red hair and I was so happy for her because she was going to become the most beautiful girl in the world. But my husband showed a concerning lack of happiness. Even before we left the hospital, he kept commenting that the red hair on our daughter was just temporary. And that his genes were just taking their time but would eventually prevail. She would also end up having blonde hair. Again, I didn't get why he was saying all this, but I didn't pay much attention to it. It did bother me that he would avoid holding her, or taking care of her, but I convinced myself that it was nothing. A few weeks later, we held a baby shower for our daughter and my husband invited his gay friend. I surprisingly got along with him since we had a lot in common, and we talked a lot during the party. He also had red hair, but it was obvious that he had dyed it from black, while me and my daughter were natural. He was constantly complimenting how my daughter had the best colored hair and I was really happy. But my husband would sometimes interrupt us, and once again exclaim that the red hair was only temporary. I ended up asking him why he was so adamant on this topic. He explained that since our son had blonde hair, it meant that all our children should be the same because that's how genes work. I tried to explain to him that that wasn't the case at all, but he didn't listen. Anyway, a few days passed and I thought that my husband had finally dropped the topic. But out of nowhere, he came up to me and began demanding a paternity test. That really shocked me because he had never said anything about this before, and with our first child. He was essentially accusing me of cheating on him, something that I would never do. I said that I loved him, so why was he asking for such a thing? He refused to explain and just said that he wanted to be sure. I asked, be sure of what? And kept pressing him to tell me why he was being so suspicious. Being accused of cheating was actually very painful for me, and I wanted to know how he came to that conclusion. After a bit more pressing, he finally cracked and blew up on me while telling me the reason. I saw how you kept talking to my friend at the party. You never talked that much with another guy, so it was obvious what was going on. I knew that my genes would never lose to yours. So the only reason that your second child has red hair is because she isn't my daughter. You probably slept with him and kept it hidden from me. He also has red hair, so it explains everything. His reasoning was absolutely ridiculous, and I reminded him that his friend was gay and already married to another man. Also, he had dyed his hair and his natural hair color was black. I asked him why he couldn't just accept that our daughter looked like me, and her hair color wasn't an unnatural phenomenon. That needed to be explained. But he kept telling me to shut up, and that he was getting a paternity test no matter what. The weirdest part was that he wanted a paternity test between our daughter and his friend, instead of our daughter and him. By that point, I had already broken into tears because he was refusing to believe me no matter what. He said that he was leaving, and wouldn't come back home until I had gotten that test done and proved that he was right, and that I had cheated on him. The moment he left, I hugged my daughter and son close to my chest, and cried for a good hour. Then I called my sister to come pick me up because I was leaving. I packed all my clothes and took my kids with me. I just texted my husband that we were over, and that I was going to divorce him. It turns out, he wasn't expecting me to fight back and thought that I would do exactly as he said. He quickly began apologizing for doubting me, and urged me to come back home with the kids. He sent me selfies to prove that he hadn't stopped crying, and was miserable without me. Apparently, he had also accused his gay friend of infidelity, and gotten punched by his husband. The news of his accusations had spread and his entire friend group had cut him off, so he was completely alone now. He said that me and the kids were all he had. But while he was typing, he messed up and ended up saying that his suspicions were 100% justified. So I just blocked him after saying, "Kids? I thought you said you only have one kid. But don't worry, they will be taken care of by someone who loves them for who they are, and not just their hair color."
My best friend of 24 years, born a male, is now a transgender woman. I'm in love with her and I'm not sure if I should tell her. My friend and I have been best friends our entire lives, we're practically brothers. Our parents grew up together, so my friend and I have been together ever since we were little babies. We've always had each other's back, protected one another, cared for each other. My friend transitioned to a female a few months ago. She's completely physically a woman. She's been through hormone replacement therapy these past few years. Seeing her becoming so much more happier is amazing to see. I'm absolutely proud of her. But I'm falling for her, and these feelings aren't going away. I'll admit that I'm in love with my friend. The friend I've known for 24 years is who is stealing my heart, and I don't know what to do. I don't want to lose my friend, but my feelings of friendship for her are turning to romantic attraction. After my friend transitioned, we continued hanging out and talking like nothing changed. We continued going out to clubs/bars, the movies, restaurants, playing video games, nothing changed. During this time is when my feelings began to change. I started falling in love with her. You know what attracted me? Her, the way she is. My friend is now acting like herself, acting free and full of life, always laughing, dancing and being goofy. It hurts me, because this is someone I grew up with and I'm afraid my feelings are going to push her away or make this awkward. Like always, I'm insanely happy being with my friend, but my feelings for her are killing me right now every time we're together again. I've fallen in love with her true self, and her true self is absolutely beautiful. I've spoken to another close friend of mine about this. I just got made fun of. Ha! You wanna F your bro, seriously? Is practically what I got. They didn't understand where I was coming from. They didn't understand what an insanely amazing person my friend is. This friend of mine feels it's creepy and nasty that I'm falling for my best friend. They also aren't taking my friend's transition seriously, which is another reason why they're acting immature. All he did was make fun of me, so ever since then I haven't spoken to anyone else about how I feel. Aside from being scared of losing my friend, I'm afraid of what our families will think. What happens if my friend and I do end up together, and our families suddenly start to panic? I'm afraid of not only ruining my friendship, but the friendship our parents have with themselves for many years. Both of our families were completely supportive when my friend transitioned, not a single negative comment. Everyone is proud of her, and the love our families have for her hasn't changed at all. I feel I'm overthinking all of this, especially because being friends is very different from being in a serious relationship. If anything, our families would be insanely happy we're together and be so annoying. But I'm more worried about the negative response, which is why I believe I'm overthinking this whole thing. Plus, if I plan to even confess my feelings for her, I have to do it soon. She's always being asked out on dates, but she tells me she's looking for the right person to spend time with. I feel this is my opportunity to confess, but I don't know if I should. I don't just want to confess how I feel about her, I want an actual relationship with her. I'll love to tell my friend how I feel about her, but I don't want to lose or ruin our 24-year friendship. I also don't want to make it seem that I'm falling for her just because she's now a woman. I don't want her to feel that way at all. What should I do? Update, screw it. I'm going for it, I'm going to ask out my friend. It's Saturday, 1 p.m. right now, I'm going to see if she wants to go on a date tonight. My plan is to take her out on a fun date and I'll confess my feelings during the date. She actually lives a few houses down the street, we live in the same neighborhood/street, that's why we're pretty much always together 24/7 every week. I'm going to message her to see if she's home so I can stop by, and while I'm there I'm going to ask her out. Edit, I got a date tonight. I was insanely nervous walking to my friend's house. But I can't stop smiling because wow, she said yes. I showed up, started talking like usual, and that's when I asked her. I told her I would love to take her out on a date tonight, that I've been wanting to ask her out for the longest time. I definitely tried to hide my face from blushing, because she had a huge smile when I asked her out. She's even extra excited cause we're going to her favorite place. She loves this 80s bar/grill that has karaoke every night and tacos, so that's where we're going. Sounds like an awesome date. I feel asking her out has made her comfortable to flirt with me since she started complimenting me and even kissed me on the cheek before I left. Things definitely felt more intimate. She even said she's going to get extra pretty for the date tonight. I'll admit, I'm really looking forward to that. Although it's impossible for her to get extra pretty, seeing as she's already so beautiful. I'm still shaking honestly. The shakes are more shakes of excitement. I'm gonna pick her in 2 to 3 hours, so I'll definitely be getting ready soon. I haven't gone on a date in quite some time, so I'm really looking forward to tonight, especially with the date being the girl I really love.
My manipulative husband called me vain and materialistic just because I like gifts. When I confronted him, he cried. I'm very interested in skincare, fashion, makeup, and other feminine things. I work hard to afford the things that I want. I'm not very pretty, but I am well put together, and many of my friends compliment me on my outfit or other things I'm proud of. It's a hobby I enjoy. My husband Sean has always been my biggest supporter. He would listen to me, and he's always surprising me with gifts of things that I've been talking about or what I've expressed interest in. I'm always appreciative of his incredibly thoughtful gifts and I love them. But things have taken a turn for the worse lately. Recently, a friend of Sean contacted me and told me that I should stop being materialistic and making my husband buy things for me. She said he complained about it a lot. I didn't want to accuse Sean without proof, so I looked through his phone. We know each other's passwords, but I was never given a reason to look through his before. I found countless messages of him calling me vain, materialistic, obsessed with my looks, picky, etc. He also said that I'm not even pretty enough to be that obsessed with myself several times. He was complaining to friends, acquaintances, and people who barely know me. It was so hurtful that I cried for hours. I love my husband and I don't want him of all people to think I'm vain or materialistic. The next day, I decided to give away my stuff, resolved to stop purchasing things, and stop talking to him about them. But then Sean went and gave me a perfume discovery set because I had recently gained an interest in perfume. I thanked him but said I didn't need it. He was confused and asked what was wrong with it. I told him that it was a lovely gift but I didn't need more perfume. I said I didn't want to be materialistic or vain. Sean said that he had seen my textbook on perfume and that I had bookmarked things, so he knew that I was interested in it. He started crying while repeatedly asking what was wrong with his gift and why I didn't like it. He has been very distressed since, but I can't stop thinking about what he said about me. Update: Sean kept asking me what exactly I didn't like about his gift and tried to narrow why I didn't accept it. He said it cost a lot of money, so the least I could do was accept it. That's when I told him the truth. His friend messaged me about how I was materialistic and forced him to buy me things. He looked furious. I said that I had looked at his phone and saw that he thought I was vain and materialistic, so I was trying to change that because I didn't like being called that. He looked even more mad and I was crying at that point. Then he hugged me and apologized. He said he didn't think I was materialistic or vain. He thought my love for my hobbies was cute and inspiring. He loved getting me gifts because I was appreciative and he liked seeing me and things he got me. I asked why he would say those things if he actually didn't think I was materialistic, vain, or self-obsessed. He hugged me tighter and made me promise to still love and stay with him before telling me the real reason he did all this. I was hesitant because I wasn't getting a good feeling about all of this, but I made the promise. He said that he was already fighting for my attention and affection with my friends, family, and my job, so he wasn't going to compete with others too. He pulled out his phone and we read his messages together. When I had first read them, I could barely read them because I was so heartbroken, but as we read them together, I realized that he started the complaining and the other person would start calling me things. Then they would walk away with a terrible opinion of me. I started crying again and he apologized. He said he never meant it and the other people would already think people like me were vain and shallow. In the texts, Sean also insinuated that only he could get me proper gifts. It's true that he's the one person whose gifts were always incredible, but that's because he was very in tune with what I would want, even more than me. I still appreciate other things. I keep every card I've ever gotten, and I still have the wrapper of a candy my childhood friend gave me. In the texts, it seems like I'm a shallow, picky person that has high standards only he can reach. I asked him not to talk about me like that anymore. He immediately said yes. He said that he would replenish what I had given away, and if I tried to reject it he would see it as spurning his affection.
Let a large snake snuggle in the leg of my shorts. The outcome wasn't pretty. At the time, I had a good-sized Florida kingsnake named Gumbo. She was about 4.5 feet long, about as thick as a broomstick. Despite her size and fierce looks, she was tame as a puppy. Even though she was as friendly as a snake can be, I had rules about when I'd handle her. If she'd eaten within the last day or two, the movement of being handled would make her poop. And snake poop is some nasty stuff. On the other hand, if it had been a while since her last feeding, she would be really fidgety and squirm around, looking for food. Luckily, on this particular Monday evening, it was prime Gumbo snuggle time. She had eaten on Friday, pooped over the weekend, and wouldn't eat again for a week. I grabbed her from her aquarium and plopped down on the couch to watch a few episodes of Futurama on Netflix. My wife sat on the other couch, doing her school work. But Gumbo was a pain in the ass. She kept trying to get away. Over my shoulders, behind the couch, in between the cushions, into my shirt, back out the collar. I spent most of an episode trying to get this little lady to chill out. I would have put her away, but I'll admit, this was back when I used to smoke and I was feeling pretty lazy at that moment. Finally we reached a very uneasy settlement. She curled up and stayed put just inside the left leg of my shorts. Now, I wasn't a fan of this idea. But I was feeling kind of lazy, and she was finally holding still, and I had just started wearing briefs instead of boxers. The elastic band around my thigh would keep her away from my manhood if she tried getting frisky. I watched my show in peace. Until she moved north. I felt her reach a zone of my body where she was not welcome, felt her push against the elastic band of my clothing. I started to reach to pull her away. Most of you will never know the white-hot, electric pain that I felt in that moment, and I'm envious. Gumbo was old enough to have mastered the art of capturing rodents, and she had decided to make a meal of slumbering trouser mouse. A gaping maw of recurved, needle-sharp teeth overtook the head of my manhood in the same way I'd seen her overpower so many mice and rats. I gasped, and my right hand shot down to pull away from the ravenous serpent. Now, a snake whose meal is being taken from it will react in one of two ways. A shy, small snake will give up, let go, slither away. But Gumbo was a fighter. I felt her tense all 4+ feet of her body, steel herself against my thigh, and pull backward. My vision blacked out for a second. Still, my left hand dove in and grabbed her by the neck. And now my pickle was in a pickle. I couldn't let go with either hand, because she might pull more or swallow deeper. But if I didn't let go, she couldn't either. Somehow, my wife had missed the whole thing. With more calm than I felt, I called her over and explained the situation. She gingerly helped me slide my pants off. Her eyes went wide. Wow. She's really got you there. We discussed the situation. I felt helpless. Luckily, she remembered that many zoos keep rubbing alcohol near the cages for their large constrictors. If the snake attacks, pour alcohol in its mouth and it'll let go. We were out of isopropyl, but we had some Bombay Sapphire gin. She ran and got it. In that moment, I learned that there is only one pain worse than a large snake trying to devour your manhood. It's pouring alcohol into the wounds being created by the large snake trying to devour your manhood. Luckily though, Gumbo and I shared a disgust for gin. She unhooked her teeth and backed away. My wife took her over to the sink and rinsed out her mouth while I pinched to staunch the blood flow. I ran to the bathroom and showered, cleaned my wounds, and assessed the damage. Today I effed up by pranking a narcoleptic. Growing up we had a friend we called Bert. He was a big lanky and skinny dude, pale as a ghost due to his low blood pressure, prone to bouts of narcolepsy. Bert wasn't his real name, just a nickname that had stuck because he would foam at the mouth during his narcoleptic spells. In other words, he was a fantastic source of entertainment for our idiot troupe, and pranking Bert became part of our weekend routine. He would drift to sleep during the slightest lull in action, sitting still more than 10 minutes, basically. The only way he could stay awake was by keeping occupied, so he would walk around a lot, or keep himself busy eating. When he slept he had two modes: he would either nod off and jerk back into consciousness a split second later, or he would be out cold for maybe 5 minutes, perfect for pranking. You could tell he was out cold when he drooled. One day we're playing FIFA 97 at another friend's house. I don't know if you remember FIFA 97 for the PS1, but the loading times were atrocious. After a while we looked over and Bert was slumped into himself, drool pooling in the folds of his coat. He rarely removed his big Manchester United manager's coat. We all agreed that Bert was due a pranking. We knew we could move Bert around while he slept, an arm here, a leg there. But we'd never fully tested the limits of his tolerance. Two of us took an arm each and another guy took his legs and we lifted him from his chair. Sure enough, he remained asleep. We swung him back and forth a bit and still he slumbered. We were amazed. So of course we knew the thing to do would be to carry him upstairs to our friend's sister's bedroom. At first we just wanted him to wake up somewhere weird. Then we got weird. Our friend's sister was about 4 years older than us, something of a hottie, and she worked odd shifts at the local supermarket. We'll call her Jane for the purposes of this retelling, it's close enough. It was mid-evening and we didn't know when exactly Jane would be home, which lent a frisson of terror to the process of undressing Bert. After we'd stripped him down to his underwear, we slipped him under Jane's big baby pink quilt and took his clothes downstairs. This should have been enough for us, but the madness had taken us and we knew we were going to push it as far as we could. We took one of Jane's fragrant girly pillows and put her nightwear on it, then slipped it under Bert's arm. We skulked back downstairs stifling laughter, waiting for Bert to wake and flee from the room in terror. 5 minutes passed, then 10. Usually he would be awake by then. Maybe the comfort of the bed had lulled him into a deeper sleep. We went up to check on him, and found him in much the same position as we had left him, except now he had an obvious stiffy that had escaped from the front of his layers and he had just had a very messy dream all over Jane's sheets and pillow. It had darkened an expanding area of her clothes. One of the most grim experiences of my life was trying to mop up Bert's fluids with a bundle of kitchen paper on the end of a pair of barbecue tongs. We tried to wake him but it was no good, and that awful pail thing of his refused to deflate. Apparently he had no blood pressure problems in one specific area. Then we hear keys in the front door and holy crap, Jane is home. I'm ashamed to say that I thundered down the stairs and ran out the back door and vaulted over the fence with an athleticism I never knew I had, closely followed by friend number 4, leaving our other friend to deal with Bert, his sister, and everything else.
My boyfriend couldn't go more than 20 minutes without smoking a cigarette even though I was repulsed by it, so I threw away his lighter and broke up with him. My boyfriend is in a really stressful field. He works usually 16 hours a day as a CEO to a computer science Silicon Valley company. Last year, to try and cope with this, he decided to try to use nicotine patches, and he eventually also started smoking. At first, he tried to hide it, but I think he realized that I knew, and stopped doing it discreetly. He started to always smoke because I guess it temporarily relieved stress, but overall I think he got less work done because of the breaks he took to smoke, which in turn caused him more stress, and as you guessed, because he was more stressed, he smoked more. It literally got to a point where he couldn't go more than 20 minutes without smoking a strong cigarette. What makes it worse is that he wouldn't ever allow me to vape, because it was much worse than smoking. However, when I confronted him about his hypocrisy of smoking even though he knew it's bad, he usually just makes comments about how he is so stressed, which is usually matched with him getting extremely mad and then having to go out to smoke. He wakes up and immediately smokes. He then proceeds to drink 3 Red Bulls and put his nicotine patches on. I started waking up earlier than him even though he almost never slept because the smell of smoke started to make me sick. He even has different brands for different days and moods. If we are at a restaurant, he will excuse himself every 15 or so minutes to go to the bathroom and smoke. And he will start to have nervous breakdowns if he doesn't have a pack on him at all times. Our house smells like smoke every single day and I am genuinely sick of it. Instead of trying to quit, he tried to hide his smoking habits, but considering he was going to the bathroom and leaving it smoky and smelling like diesel, it was easy to figure out he was still doing it. This led to another argument where I told him he promised he would stop, and he got defensive saying he needed it. I finally gave up giving out to him and nowadays we are exactly where we were before the argument. He always has it in his hand, and he has developed a cough because of it, as well as daily heart and chest pains. He also has a noticeably deeper voice, but I'm not complaining about that last one. I have begged him to go to the doctor, but he refuses, saying it's just an abnormality that will pass. I finally reached my breaking point last night. We were having intimacy, and midway through it he stopped, and got up and reached into the drawer and proceeded to take a huge puff of a tiny cigarette. He said in his now sexy deep voice, "I can't get hard anymore without relaxing." He then blew a big amount of smoke near me in the bed. Without missing a beat, I stood up and grabbed his only lighter and threw it out of our apartment window. Mind you, this was also during the lockdown, and so he started going into an absolute panic. After all of that, he contacted one of his employees and said he would give a $1,000 bonus if they brought over a lighter, within the next 30 minutes. Needless to say, I moved back with my parents and I'm not talking to him anymore.
Somewhere in this world, there is a 26-year-old with a debilitating fear of birds. And I do it all again. In high school, I was a counselor at a summer camp for elementary school kids. One day, about 4 days into camp, a kid of about 8 walked up to me holding a huge feather, like from a hawk or something. He was all excited and proud, but for some reason, my immediate reaction was to go, "Oh, no. Where did you find that? That's a feather from the yellow-bellied lake loon. Oh, man, does this mean it's back?" Now, the kid, for this part, was immediately skeptical. It's just a feather from a big bird." Well, at that moment, my buddy Derek walked up, oblivious to the situation. The kid shows him the feather, and, for reasons known only to Jeebus, says, "Oh, no. Where did you find that? Like, just absolutely amazing." The kid absolutely freaks, drops the feather and runs off. I fill Derek in on what happened, and we laugh about it, thinking it's over. Later, we're in the dorms, and the kid walks up with a few older kids, demanding we tell them about the loon. We concoct this story of a giant, yellow-bellied lake loon that was notorious for stealing campers from the lake shore, and sometimes their bunks. Another counselor, Daniel, is working behind the dorms and hears our tale. The older kids don't believe it, and question him about it as they go outside. Having heard the legend of the loon without their knowledge, he confirms every grisly detail, thereby sealing it as fact. Before supper, it had spread throughout the camp, all through the boys' and girls' dorms. Amazingness. Kids would take turns keeping lookout during swim time, and it became an easy way to scare them into submission at bedtime. Well, we keep this going until there are 3 days left in camp. Another counselor, Jeremy, had to be back at his summer job early the next morning, so we hatched a plan. I left and drove to my parents', about an hour away, and retrieved this ginormous stuffed lobster. I had one at the fair. Going MacGyver with sheets, the lobster and costume stuff from the camp, we dressed me up like a giant yellow-bellied lake loon. At around 5 the next morning, when Jeremy had to leave camp, I burst into the boys' dorm, cawing and flapping my wings. I attacked Jeremy in his bed, dragging him out of the dorm, him screaming all the while. There was pandemonium. Kids were screaming, crying, terrified. Meanwhile, Jeremy got into his car and drove home, never to be seen by the campers again. We got most of them settled down, but not all. About 6 kids were so freaked, their parents came and scooped them early. We never admitted to the parents that we knew anything about it, and never assured the campers that it was just a prank and that Jeremy was alright. There are some mind-blowing amazing facts about the human body. Ever heard of a dead body making women pregnant? Meet the man many women want to touch to get pregnant. The cemetery of Père Lachaise is the largest cemetery in Paris. Many famous people are buried there, such as Oscar Wilde, Jim Morrison, Molière, Frédéric Chopin, Théodore Géricault and others. But the tomb that gained worldwide fame for the most unusual reasons is certainly the one of an ordinary young man, Victor Noir. Is the largest cemetery in Paris. The tomb that gained worldwide fame for the most unusual reasons is certainly the one of an ordinary young man, Victor Noir. It is believed that if a woman kisses the statue of Victor Noir on the lips, rubs the bulge in his trousers and drops a flower in his hat, it will bring her enhanced fertility and a blissful sex life. More specifically, if you want to find a beautiful lover, you should kiss Noir's lips. If you want to get pregnant, you should touch his right foot, and if you want to have twins, you should touch his left foot. According to the myth, a baby will follow soon after and single ladies will find a husband within the year. The statue itself is a living proof that people take this myth very seriously. Victor Noir's lips, groin and shoes are shiny, while the rest of his body has the usual greenish tone of oxidized bronze. That is why in 2004 a fence was placed around the statue of Noir with a warning sign: any damage caused by graffiti or indecent rubbing will be prosecuted. But this agitated so many women that the fence was soon torn down. Today, women who have fallen pregnant after visiting Victor Noir's grave return to the cemetery in gratitude and put photos of their children and other objects in the hat near the statue. Here is a picture of what that looks like today.